this one. Nice things, the hurricanes we had, I would fix for people's yard. These are the people who need the most attention. I never take a rest until I know that they find some happiness, Lord. If I could, I want to help somebody. I cannot let my people perish, Lord. That's my request. Help me to help somebody.
Try to create that atmosphere that you're going to get the answers that you desire as it relates to how we perform our duty during the Yuletide season. So we are speaking this morning post Yuletide. A lot was done. You would have seen it, you would have experienced it. I'm certain if you were anywhere within the Western Division during the period from November to December, you would have come in contact with an officer. There was a gentleman that said to me, he said, Corporal, it seems as every little nook and cranny we look, there was an officer. That was deliberate. That was management. On this note, I'm taking the opportunity to invite my guest this morning to introduce himself to the listening public.
Good morning and Happy New Year to you, every one of you. I am Kenneth Gill, Superintendent of Police, responsible for the Western Division of the Royal Garda Police Force. I'm happy to be with you here today on this radio program. Post-Yuletide operation, as we continue to work towards building safer, more secure community for all our citizens, I want to take this opportunity to speak directly with you, the people we serve. We will discuss matters of safety, updates on our efforts, and how we can all play a role in maintaining law and order within the beautiful island. Your partnership and trust are vital, and I look forward to a constructive conversation today. Let's work together to keep Grenada a safe and peaceful place for everyone.
Mr. Gill, your entry into the Western Division, it was right during that period of the Yuletide, and we experienced that transition in the leadership. And as you would know, as a very senior officer, the Yuletide period is one of the period during the year where we experience spikes in different levels of offenses. And there are reasons for it. The increase in spending, sometimes we have increase in visitor arrival, and there are a number of factors that contribute to that. It's always difficult to transition in leadership, but doing it in a critical period like that in itself, I'm sure, was a challenge. How were you and the team able to navigate that as an issue?
Yes, well, in terms of the challenges and knowing that the season was one that called for policing to be on top of things, we implemented key strategies. Crime strategies implemented were during the period, and the key strategies implemented were media outreach number one. We had conducted and sensitized the program on various media platforms. These include crime fighting strategies, safety tips and best practices, fire safety. Pre larceny department reach out to farmers. The traffic department reach out to the motorists and pedestrians. CRD reach out to the parents and how to keep their children safe during the period.
I like the fact that you leverage the media to reach the communities that we serve. Now, oftentimes, we as law enforcement, we express that it's one thing serving people, it's another when we start hearing from them. That's where we start making that case on whether or not what we do reap the desired benefits. And for example, you spoke of the patrols, and I know you were big on the patrols. And I remember that you clamored for both day and night staggering the patrols, as you often put it. What are some of the benefits we reap from that approach?
Well, in terms of the increase in patrols, we were able to benefit by less crime occurring within our policing area. We did both foot mobile patrols, we did farm patrols. We did farm patrols regarding livestock, stealing of livestock. We engaged the farmers, the business community. We had business engagement, and some of the fruit that bear from those patrols, people had a sense of safety when they see the police within the community, both day and night, and they feel assured that the police were there just in case persons try to commit any crime or offenses. So the increase in patrols really helped in the deterrent of crime within our policing area. We had the pre-larceny officers staggering the patrol, doing farm visit, going out with the farmers, who were able to identify areas where it's likely that animals could be or slaughtered, and so we also had the officers intercepting a butcher in the process of killing a stolen animal, and that matter is before the court right now. So the patrols really help in deterring crime happening within the policing area.
And I must confess to you, Superintendent Gill, that farmers within the division, there was a period where it was expressed that they were not feeling the presence of the pre-larceny department. And I remember on your introduction to the Western Division, where we had that program, where you spoke of your vision and your intention to ensure that pre-larceny within the division is seen, heard, and there is a revitalization and a real energy around that particular unit. And I'm sure that the listening public will be very pleased, sir, to hear you announce of the increased presence. And I know that you were calling for not just the main roads, but that the patrols also be done within the back roads and the by roads and those areas there. And I just want you to speak about that a little bit in detail.
Yes, because what you realize that persons who committing those offenses would not traverse the main road where they know they can be easily spotted. So that's why we asked our team to patrol more the rural areas, ensure that they go into the mountain areas to ensure that persons who traverse those areas will be caught if they intend to steal animals and traverse those areas, and also pre-larceny products. So another initiative that was done in terms of checking persons who were selling, vendors, and showing that the produce were not stolen produce. So Pretty Alasani did a lot of checks within the market area where the vendors were set up to ensure that the goods were not stolen items. So they had to produce, if they indicated that they bought the goods, then they have to produce receipts to show that is authentic.
Well, sir, you know what my next question going to be, because I'm sure that that farmer that sits at Shambo, Shantimel, Samaritan, maybe even Douglaston, he's hearing all this that was done during the Yuletide season, and the question at the forefront of his mind, sir, is that will that presence be sustained? Can you speak to that, sir?
Yeah, certainly. It works, and what works, I don't think it should stop. So we'll sustain that presence of our officers within the field, patrolling together with the farmers at times, patrolling day and night to ensure that those offenses don't come in. And it's testimony to show that the stats itself prove that the patrol within the farms and things did help, because we had little reports of stealing of crops.
Yes, and sir, I think that the public will hold me accountable if I did not say to you, sir, despite some of the successes we had by the Pretty Alasani department, our engagement of our vendors, I do believe that we did see more reports than would make us comfortable as it relates to the stealing of livestock.
Yes, certainly, especially in the St. Patrick area. We had a number of reports of livestock, even though 2 persons were arrested and charged for stealing of livestock. But however, we continue to see the rise in reports of livestock, especially in the St. Patrick area. So that's an area we have to do major concentration on. The men were spoken to at length in terms of how they should strategize, implement new strategies to ensure that farmers' livestock would be safe.
I was posed with a question, sir, so I want to put that to you this morning, and that would be my last question on that particular subject. But someone wanted to know whether the Rgpf would be, in terms of using technology to fight that particular crime, and in particular they were speaking about the use of drones. I do not know where we are in terms of, and I'm thinking overall Rgpf.
Yes, certainly we have officers who man over the drones, and I think the administration sees fit to do additional drones for the Rgpf, and also to increase the team of persons who operate those drones. So it's very helpful in the prevention of crime, and also to help in the investigation of crime. So you will see more drones, also cameras. Farmers and all will instill cameras within the farms and so. And yes, where the world is going today, you must ensure that you implement a lot of those assets to help in your investigation.
And I want to touch the business engagement. Now, your background, sir, is crime fighting, and most of your career would have been in the criminal investigation department. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to crime fighting strategies, it's one of the things that you are very big on. Mm-hmm. And I recall, sir, that at your introduction into the division, I remember that you spoke heavily about combining our efforts, and instead of policing as a small station or a union for itself or a granule for itself, you believe heavily on the concept of policing as a division. Yeah, I want you to speak about that, sir.
Yes, as we know, none of the station is adequate in terms of manpower and resources within the trial and state of Greater Carriacou and PD Martinique. So we cannot just walk inside one station by itself. We have to ensure that we spread our and we have to ensure that we spread our energy together, our team together. We have to ensure that persons from stations support each other whenever a station have other activities. They engage in investigation. We know that one station cannot just work on its own, so it's important that we support each other by sending manpower to different stations when they have certain activities to assist. Because if we don't do that, then we won't be able to serve the community as well as we intend to. So we have to ensure that we have officers in the different stations to support each other. And I think that had worked well within the period. Because for we to ensure that we have more patrols, conduct more operations, we had to combine our efforts together. And that was important so that we could serve the community in the right way.
Earlier on, sir, in the last year, and that was before you would have come to the division, we had significant reports in terms of juvenile that are coming in conflict with the law. But at the latter part of the year, we noticed significant reduction in that area there. And I know, sir, that as a strategy, you believe, sir, that officers should visit the schools and have those type of conversation. And I really want you to, not just reassure the public that continuance, they can expect continuance in that particular area.
Well, certainly we must address the students, and we cannot do it alone as police officers. We need the support of the teachers, the parents. Everything starts at home, so the parents is important. However, we as police officers have to ensure that we continue our visit at schools. We had embarked on a number of programs. We had done skit. We had had students going to our Majesty's prison, and the objective of that was to ensure that the students would not commit crime when they hear that heard from prisoners that the position they are in prison and what caused them to be in prison and the treatment that they are getting at prison. And so it's more a deterrent in terms of persons committing crime to go to the prison. So it's a continuous process. We cannot stop there. We have to continue going to the schools. We have to continue talking to the students. We have to continue making them know that coming to school with weapons is not accepted. Coming to school with alcohol and drugs is not accepted. And also delinquent behavior is not accepted within our schools. So time and time again, we will form police girls and boys club within the schools. We'll have other school programs to ensure that students understand what we are trying to do for them, and they will accept that the police is trying to help them and not do them any wrong.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to hear you say that. I'm coming back and I want to touch on your baby, sir. And that is the creation of the volunteer firefighters unit within the Western Division.
Yes.
And I think in terms of your strategic focus, that was one of the elements that you spoke to. We are in this new year and we have an opportunity. Dry season is before us. Any extra resources that we can get will be very helpful in terms of your plans to see that bear fruits. Can you speak to that?
Yes, certainly I have spoken to the fire officers within the division thus far. I need to have a conversation with the fire chief himself. However, at Victoria, we have the volunteer firefighters. And I think each of the stations should model and ensure that we revamp the fire assistance within all the stations within the division. So I'd ask the officers to speak to persons so we see who is interested, and by the first quarter we should have all the stations have volunteer firefighters.
Right. And I'm very happy to hear you say that. In recent times you would have witnessed the fire that we had at St. George's, and working in the division, especially Guelph, if you take a look, you're going to notice that a lot of our buildings are very close.
Yes.
And having that extra manpower. So I think that is very timely, and I'm very glad to hear you say that you are pursuing that, and we're going to look to make that happen in 2025. The
Certainly.
business community, so I know that there was that business engagement.
Yes.
And what I like about your approach, because initially we give the crime fighting pamphlets,
Yes.
but I also noticed that you did a meeting with the business
Yes.
sector as well, where you further spoke to them patterns of crime and so on and so on. Can you speak to that?
Yes, just before the Christmas, we had a discussion with the business community. We had about 10 to 12 persons from the business community. We held a meeting. We had the detective explaining to them in terms of the counterfeit notes and different patterns of crimes. And we also, I also engaged them, giving them an overview of the division and what we intend to do and what support we would like from the business community. Also, is the intention to also revamp the crime management team, whereby some members or 1 or 2 members from the business community will be part of that team. So we could sit down and strategize how we deal with crime and the way forward. But I think it was a fruitful meeting, discussion, because he had proven we didn't have any major reports during that period. We didn't have no stealing, we didn't have shoplifting, we didn't have no robbery. So I think meeting the business community, they gave some of the concerns which we are working on with what they had told us, and on and on. I think we have a good relationship, because we also have a WhatsApp chat. So any issues or any problem, they could easily contact the station.
So I know that is sometimes persons out there, they hear of the successes and they don't quite understand now how that is achieved. Mm-hmm. Now, in the past, it was almost a reality where you didn't have that close relationship between the police and the public. But I notice the hallmark of your leadership in the division is one that where we engage the public regularly, and that we have that regular interaction and conversation, and that we're not just sitting in a corner planning what we are going to do, but we listen as well. We take ideas from them. Mm-hmm. And I think that is exemplary of you, sir. And we continue to thank you for that leadership that you continue to demonstrate along with your team. I believe the men throughout the division, and that is something that they wanted me to express to you this morning openly, mm-hmm. that we are very pleased with the leadership, sir, mm-hmm. and the direction in which we are going. I know that part of your leadership is the development of your men under your mm-hmm. command as well. And I want to know some of the plans that you have in place so that in 2025.
Yes, well, going forward, we need to develop each and every one of us. We're never too big to learn, and I think that there are persons with a number of skills within the division, and also we look for persons outside of the division and also civilian who can assist in officers, developing our officers in different skill sets, so ensure that when when the officers they'll be so versed in different skill patterns, so we won't have a problem when we go out there. We will be acting professionally in whatever we do, even though we are in traffic, CID, regular, whatever department, or professionalism brings forward an officer. And I think everybody should ensure that each and every officer are well-rounded and they are certain of what they're doing when they go there. They don't walk in avoidance because they're not assertive of what they have to do. But we have to ensure that once you go there as a police officer, you are assertive of whatever duty you're performing, whatever offense you are tackling persons with. You're assertive, so you have no any fear in terms of execution of your duty. So it's very important that we have all our officers trained in different skill sets, and we have resources within our division, and we'll start in short order to ensure that persons within the division are well resourceful.
All right, so I'm happy to hear that, because I believe that the listening public will be pleased to know that the officers that patrol the streets are well trained and well disciplined, and I think that the plans that we have, it will augurs well for the development, I'm not just thinking of them as police officers, but as young men and women developing their professional career. So I want to bring you back to that initiative that we had for the Christmas. It was entitled Get Your License. And the intention there was to tackle persons that had the ability to drive and did not have a driver's license. And I know that the program went through all the stages and we had a level of success. Can you just touch it a little bit?
Yes, this was an initiative by the officers attached to Traffic Department, Western Division, Get Your License for Christmas. And it's an initiative that I endorsed. It was also endorsed by the officer in charge of traffic, and he went on where persons were able to do the theoretical part of the driver's license and also the practical. Coming out of that, we had about 8 persons being successful in obtaining their license. And I think the objective of that is to ensure that persons don't drive without license. So they had an opportunity to get a license before by the Christmas time, so to avoid them from driving without license. And it is testimony to show that with all the checks we had done, within the division, we had no persons arrested for driving without a driver's license. So I think it was a good initiative, and it will be a continuing initiative for the rest of the year.
I wanted to say to you in the same breath, so that the wonderful citizens of St. Patrick, St. Mark, they are wondering when it's going to be their turn, because they heard of the initiative, they heard of the success, and sometimes, law enforcement is looked at as just being punitive and reactive to crime and locking up people and so. And when we have initiatives like that, where we look at the society, the weakness, and we try to bridge that gap and really help people to help themselves.
Yes.
And I think it was a really wonderful initiative. And I know that you're going to be getting some calls in your office, because there are other persons out there that really want that opportunity to reach to them.
Well, not only in the division, people outside the division also reach out to me. But I told them it was only extended for persons within the division for that period. So I don't know if he'll go outside the division, but we'll see what happens when the times come.
Yeah, and I think it was a really, really, really wonderful initiative. Yeah, and I will piggyback on the fire departments, and I know that we did a lot of the programs. From your experience over the years, you know that Christmas season, normally we call it fire season.
Yeah.
And from our records, we didn't have any reports of house or business fire as such.
Yeah, I think the fire department did a good job in terms of engagement. They had reached out to schools, they had reached out to the business community, they had reached out to other organizations where they had demonstrated and also gave fire tips as the do's and don'ts, especially around the Christmas season. And from my record, for the statistics, there were no major fire, whether it be house, bushfire. There were small businesses, I must say. There were small bushfires, but nothing really to alarm any situation.
Yeah, and I think that is wonderful. And as we're about to go into the dry season, as you know, sir, and it's one that, well, we would be featuring the fire department, because we still want to take the opportunity to speak to the listening public out there. I believe by now a lot of persons is aware there are laws that relates to the setting of fires, and
certainly
you should not be setting any fire in dry times without having that relevant permission. And that's a conversation we're going to have next week, so you can stay tuned to that particular conversation. I know, sir, that we had a lot of operations during the Yuletide period, and in terms of looking at the warrant, there were a lot of, when we look at the warrant drive, I know that there were persons sent to prisons, and we had some monies collected that was put into the state coffers. Can you speak to that?
Yes, for the period in review, we had a number of operations. As you mentioned, we had warrant drives, we had house searches, and I must say during the house searches we had recovered a firearm from a young man with ammunition, and also another young man we had confiscated. I also found another ammunition, some ammunitions. But the period, in terms of the warrant, we had executed 32 commitment warrants, and a total of $12,284.75 were paid as a result of the warrant that was executed. 2 persons were sent to prison.
And looking at that, sir, I know that our levels of crime during that period came down significantly.
Yes.
And I do believe because of the proactive approach of the police, we were able to have that as success. And it shows that when you put in the work, you will reap that results. So I'm very happy with that. I must ask you that question because I believe this is something, sir, that concerns a lot of citizens, not just in St. Patrick, but throughout Grenada. Recently, we did hear of the state of emergency in Trinidad. And just hearing you say that we recover firearm and we recover ammunition, sir. As you know, our borders are porous. And if there are incidents in Trinidad, sometimes you get that spillover on our shores. As a division, sir, how prepared are we? Or maybe even as a force, are we prepared, sir, for possible spillover of the situation that is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago?
Certainly, we have to, as a country on a whole, prepare for any spillover from Trinidad and even our neighboring island, St. Vincent, because we heard of how much gun-related offenses St. Vincent also had. So not just Trinidad, St. Vincent also has a number of gun-related offenses. So as a country, we need to work together. If you see something, say something. we urge the public. We, as law enforcement, will do what we have to do in terms of border control. The Coast Guard, drug squad, CID are doing their part. We also, as regular, are doing our part to ensure that persons don't enter our state and commit crime, and also bringing arms and ammunition within our country. I must say, last year, shown that the amount of firearms recovered within our country was the most we ever had. There were a total of 61. However, out of the 61, 9 was brought in amnesty. Over a total of 1,015 ammunition were 1,500 ammunition were recovered, and out of that 1,500 ammunition, about 300 was as a part of amnesty brought in. So it just showed that firearms are coming in within our country, and we need to strengthen our borders, and because I think that's the source they are getting into our country, especially through barriers and customs and so on. As we know, our country don't have the detectors, other countries, metal detectors, to detect those firearms when they come in barriers and so on, because there are different areas and different things the firearms can come into our country with. So we asking the support of the public also. If you know persons have firearm, report it. You don't have to say who is calling. Just give the information and say who is the person on firearm and where likely they might have it. If you hold a firearm at this time and we're asking you to bring it in, or just say you leave it somewhere and give us the information. You don't have to give your name, okay? Because we see what is trending now. Most of the crimes now is by the use of firearms, and we don't want Grenada to come like those other countries. As was said, our neighbor Trinidad is now under a state of alert. Over 600 homicide last year, and those homicide, most of them, over 80%, was by the use of firearm. St. Vincent also have a high rate in terms of firearm with the homicide. They had, I think, about 58 homicide for the year 2024. So, as I say, give the support to the law enforcement. If you know, if you see something, if you see firearms, or you have information about firearms, give it to somebody. You must have confidence in somebody. It don't must be me, it don't must be Officer Lewis, but you within your community, you must have an officer that you will have confidence in. You must have an officer that might be your relative. Just give the information. I think by doing that, we could alleviate firearms coming into our country.
And I'm glad that you speak so extensively on the subject. And again, we continue to implore on the general public. We understand the situation with our borders. If you start seeing strange persons in your communities, that's an opportunity for you to call the police. Please, let's do our part in keeping Grenada safe. Now, that's a charge both for law enforcement, both for the civilian population. And if we come together and we work together, I believe we're going to have a level of success. So, last year we had that discussion with persons applying for permission to host events.
Yes.
And there was some chaos trending online. And I think that we addressed that issue in terms of the procedure. And I remember one of the things that we spoke to, sir, was adherence to the permission. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the compliance and the buy-in from the public, can you speak to that?
Yes, certainly. I must say this year we had seen good compliance from the event managers. We had no such complaint of persons playing music without permission and so. They adhered to the time, the stipulated time that was given to them. They had cut off on time, and so we had no reports or no major incident coming from those events. And I think we must say thanks to the organizers for adhering to the rules and the time that was given to them to have such events. So let's continue on that path, and we have activities very soon. We have independence coming very soon, and I know persons will apply for permission. So we want to ensure that we stick to the rules set out by the administration when you apply for such permission. So again, I want to thank you for adhering to those rules and regulations.
Right, and I did ask you, sir, I know that last year during conversation it came up, and we want to reassure the public there as it relates to persons desiring to hold events close to the main roads.
Yes.
I know that the Rgpf would have taken a position on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you just reinforce that to the listening public?
Yes, to the listening public, permission would not be granted to hold events close to the main road. And the reason why, we don't want the obstruction of traffic. We don't want persons, because what we noticed before, persons, when there are activities close to the road, persons will tend to stay in the road, and the motorist public have to at least beg them to come from the road for them to pass. Some of them even ask for money for you to pass. So no permission will be granted to persons to have events close to the road. You have to get alternative areas to ensure that you hold your event, but permission would not be granted to have events in the main road, especially in the main road.
Right, and I'm happy that you clarifying that as an issue. So for our promoters out there, you may not be a promoter, you are listening to the program now and you receive that information. I ask that you share it with someone that you probably know in the promotion business, and we have to balance rights of everyone. While somebody may have the rights to enjoy themselves, we also have to consider that there may be other citizens that may not want to participate in that activity, and they too also have a right to exist within the society. And I think a lot of people would be pleased to hear the position of our executive on that particular issue. And I'm happy, sir, that you given that clarity. If you are tuning in today, we don't have a lot of time left, but you're tuning into Behind the Badge. I'm your host, Corporal Lewis, and this morning my guest is Superintendent Kenneth Gill, officer in charge of the Western Division. And we are speaking post-Yuletide. We so far have delved into some of the strategies that we would have implemented during the Yuletide season to ensure that the citizens within the Western Division were safe. And what we are noticing coming out of those strategies, we had a number of success. I want you to just touch a little bit in terms of the traffic, sir, because I know that there was a concern. You know, around the Christmas, people drink a lot of alcohol, but I know that the data is suggesting something in terms of traffic intercepting persons with that particular issue. Can you address that?
Yes, certainly. Whereas we had approached the Yuletide season, we had heightened up our traffic checks and stop and such. And I must say that even though we had issued 239 tickets, we haven't seen any ticket or anyone arrested for driving under the influence. And that speaks volumes because, you know, it's the festive season, and you know, persons like to drink alcohol and drive and so, and to create accidents. And we had no one ticketed or arrested for driving under the influence. Yeah, so I think all in all, the traffic management was good. We had 47 motor vehicle accidents across the Western Division for the Yuletide period. We had 11 minor injuries and 36 non-injury accidents. From the total reported, one was a serious, remaining 46 minors. So one serious, 46 minor out of the 47 reports. 25 persons received minor injuries, which include children and adults.
So I think I too want to just chime in there. I believe that the traffic management was really good during that period, and another thing, so it may not be highlighted in the stats of traffic, but one of the concern that was expressed by our business folks in terms of persons and the parking around that period there, and I know that it was a command issuing from the management team so that we engage the business folks, and that, yes, there are times that based on the item, the person, we sort of have dialogue rather than just clamping or ticketing everybody, and it's always wonderful when we take the totality of the society into consideration and we look at people. I like to call it sometimes policing by just integrity, not always just you do something wrong, we lock you up, we bring you go, but we had that conversation, and I believe that the business people, they were very pleased with how the police would have handled that particular situation. And before we have about 5 minutes, sir, the public consultation that we had, and I like the dialogue that was generated in that, and I want to know your plans 2025, whether or not we're probably going to have it on a quarterly basis or so. Are there any plans for we to have more in different areas?
Yes, the public forums, what we call the town hall meetings, I think it's important that you have those meetings, I would say, on a quarterly basis. It's good to hear from the public the issues, and that will give you the time and how to strategize in way you deal with certain things. Without hearing from the public, you alone cannot say, well, you are doing well, but the public must also say you're doing well. So if the public have issues, then we'll have to engage them, deal with those issues, and that's how we'll measure our success in terms of how we police our community. So we'll be having town halls quarterly, and we'll have it in different areas. We have how much stations? 5 stations, and we'll try to see if we could facilitate all the areas with a town hall meeting, because a lot come out from those meetings, and as I say, it's important to hear what the public have to say about the police and how they police the area. Yeah, so we will continue with the town hall meeting. And one thing that had come out in the one before that we had before Christmas, they want to see the revamping of all the citizen advisory bodies within the policing area. And that is something we have to work on speedily to ensure all the areas have citizen advisory body. It's important to have all those entities within the regular police force to assist the police in their functioning and strategizing to fight crime. Also, the crime management team, that is something I want to ensure that start very soon. Maybe I'll give myself March to make sure that it's up and running. Yeah, the crime management team. Yes.
And earlier on you mentioned that team is a team that would consist both of police and
civil.
persons from different sectors
Sectors,
within
yes.
the community.
Yes, certainly.
Mr. Gill, I want to ask you this question as we wrap up. And I want to focus on how easy it is, members of the public, sir, to come to you and have a conversation. Because sometimes management could almost appear to be aloof or distant. Describe your management style for me, sir.
Well, I am someone easy to deal with. I have an open door policy. You don't have to make an appointment to see me. However, I have a secretary, so just relate to the secretary if you want to see me, and the reason why you want to see me, and I'll hear what you have to say and deal with it. Yeah.
I think the public going to like that piece of information, the accessibility. I want to take the opportunity, sir, to thank you for appearing on the program here today. I think it was very fruitful for we to speak to the public. We did so at the onset of the Yuletide, and I think it was important that we had that conversation, that the people hear of the successes. Now a man may understand why we stopped him in the traffic and why he had the little delay. Because you would have heard this morning that we intercept a number of things. The operations, the early morning, now you know we recover firearms, and you could hear of the successes, and you could understand that this is all strategies to keep our society safe. Thank you for appearing on the program here this morning.
Now, let me thank you also and for this opportunity to remind everyone that safety is a shared responsibility. The work we do as a police force is only made stronger through partnership and cooperation with the public. The people of the community, we are all part of the solution in ensuring a better and safer future for our children and families. Thank you for having me, and thank to the public for tuning in. And I look forward to continuing this engagement. Let's continue to work together for a safer community.
Thank you, sir.